What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dolphins on Duke. This week we got our first member of the Sisterhood, Elizabeth Williams, retired Jersey and 757 native. So had a good time with her and chatting with her about her experience at Duke and, playing overseas and the W. So a lot of good stuff talking to her. But as always, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our uploads. Check us out over on YouTube at The Field of 68 and reach out to us on Twitter at The Field of 68 and me personally at Dre_Dawkins. Hope you enjoy this one and we'll see you next week. All right. So this week, our guest is the one and only Elizabeth Williams, our first member of the Sisterhood on the podcast. So welcome, Elizabeth. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it always.
All right, so we start off the podcast with the same question every week. What was your welcome to Duke moment?
Ooh, honestly, it was probably my visiting Cameron for the first time, and just first realizing how small Cameron is.
Yeah,
like I think that was probably my welcome to Duke moment. And then just like even being able to practice in Cameron for the first time and just like feeling that space and knowing the history that's in there. I felt like being in that moment, I was like, this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. That's a good one. So I gotta ask, because I'll probably see Mark at some point during the year, and I gotta, I gotta jab him a little bit. So how bad did you beat up on him on the court when y'all were growing up?
I mean, so the thing is we're 8 years apart. So like I was always significantly older than him when I was playing. So we didn't really compete against each other that much until he was like probably in high school, But by then, like I'm a pro, like not trying to kill him. And he's also not trying to hurt me. So most of the time we didn't really beat up on each other too bad. Okay. And now I just feel like he's too tall. So it's not even, it's not fair.
No, I understand that. So coming up in high school, what was it like playing for two powerhouses in Princess Anne and then in summertime playing with Boo Williams, who, if you know anything about grassroots basketball, Boo Williams. So what was it like for you getting to play for two, just legendary coaches, whether, in high school and in summertime?
It was great. I think I was actually just talking to someone about Coach Dozier and how I felt really prepared going into college. And like, I felt like I was in shape and I felt like he did a good job of pushing us even as high schoolers. Like, whereas, a lot of people in high school, they're the superstars and they don't really get pushed and their coaches don't, try to challenge them as much. But I felt like Coach Dozier, like he's had so many elite players and so many D1 players come through his program. He knows what players should expect and what players need to do. So I always appreciated that about him. And I always try to stay in touch with him. And it's similar with Boo, he's had so many elite players on the boys side and on the girls side. And he's just like, he's a guru, he knows the game. He's been around the game a really long time. And, you're also competing against the best too. It's one thing to just play and compete, like within, yourself and your local teams. But when you're playing in these AU tournaments with the best players across the country, like that's really telling. So I'm always grateful for my high school experience and playing for Boo. And just being able to compete at a really young age.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Elizabeth and I are both from the same area. A little bit older, both from the 757. So, way back in the day, you used to have to get the scores on the newspaper. So yeah, Princess Anne was always one that I was always searching for in the newspaper. Like, how bad did Princess Anne beat somebody last night? It always seemed like it was a lot to a little. Did you guys win state all 4 years?
No, we actually only won twice.
Only twice.
Just twice, yeah. My freshman year we lost in the semifinals, I believe. And actually, no, both my freshman year and my junior year, we lost in the semifinals. Yeah.
Okay. So Final Four, 4 years.
Yeah.
State champ twice. That's not bad.
Yeah. Not too shabby.
Yeah, no, that's better than most for sure.
Yeah.
So during your recruiting, what was important to you when you were kind of narrowing down your list of colleges?
For me, I think just the way that I grew up and the way my parents are, like education was pretty much number one. But I know even for me personally, like not being far away from home was also important because I think about we talked about playing for Boo and how much we're competing against the best. That means we traveled a lot. And so I didn't want my family to be traveling a lot when I'm in college too. And so just being able to not be too far away, and Duke's only 3.5 hours away. Like that was important to me. But I mean, then there's the basketball. Duke is the best. It's the best of both worlds. We had so many great players that I had the opportunity to play with, and I just felt so comfortable once I got on campus. And so it felt like it was the perfect blend of everything that I was looking for in a school.
Yeah. So I get this question a lot. They're like, well, what was your second school? Where would you have gone if you didn't go to Duke? And to me, it's hard to answer because I was like, I wasn't going anywhere else. Was that similar for you?
I struggled a bit because I really liked Tennessee and Pat, and I really liked Virginia, UVA. I had a really great visit when I went up there. And again, I wasn't too far away.
Yep.
And they were always solid and still had an opportunity to really make a splash in the ACC. But yeah, and it was definitely hard to turn down Pet Summit and Tennessee and the history there. So those were the other two schools that I was really interested in.
Yeah. So coming in, I was highly touted, McDonald's All-American, all that good stuff. Did you have any expectations you set for yourself coming in as a freshman?
I think the biggest one was making an impact right away. I kind of knew based on like who was in my position, like who I'd be competing against. So it was like, okay, when you get to campus, like you want to make sure that you're making an impact right away. So that was a big goal of mine. Not necessarily anything statistically, because like you can't really control that. But just being a sponge and wanting to be a force in the paint right away.
Yeah. So I got to ask, I mean, I was never really any good at it, but what is the key to blocking a shot? Or is it just a Williams family secret? Because it seems like the whole Williams family's got that down.
It's like in the secret sauce or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. People always ask me this, and it's so hard to answer because like it really is the timing. Like shot blocking is timing, and kind of knowing when to swing and when to lay back. And for the most part, people are like generally predictable when they get in the paint. And so at least that's how it feels to me. And so that's how I feel like I'm able to block some shots. It's always tougher, now more people go off like the wrong foot, and they're doing layups and stuff. But I also think having some length and athleticism helps with combating that too. So I just think over time, you just like from playing the game so much, you just you block shots, and it's so fun to block shots. Like, yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's fun blocking shots.
Yeah, definitely lacking on the length and athleticism here, so maybe that's my problem.
You got the shooting down, so it's fine.
Yeah, you got to do something. So I'll just shoot, and I'll let the Williams family block the shots. Do you have a most memorable moment from playing at Duke?
Most memorable playing moment, probably winning the ACC tournament my sophomore year. Like we had such a good year that year. Like we were ready to make a really deep run. We made it to the Elite Eight that year. We lost to Notre Dame in the regional final, but I think winning the ACC championship that year and seeing just like it, we felt like such a team, like from the beginning of the season to that point. And sometimes it's rare to have that feeling of everyone being on the same page and wanting the same things and competing at a high level. So I think that's what sticks out to me the most.
Yeah. And so when you graduated, you'd obviously had a great career. I think you like second in rebounds all time at Duke, first in blocks, top 10 in blocks in NCAA history. Did you think about like, I wonder if they'll retire my jersey, or was that something that even came into your mind when you left?
It didn't come into my mind, and then I think someone in the athletic department, it actually might have been Nina, that brought it up and said, like you have a chance of getting your jersey retired because because I think the requirement is like winning a national individual honor, and I won National Defensive Player of the Year my senior year, and so like that was the first time it had even crossed my mind that it was even possible. Because like when you're playing, like I don't really think about that stuff. Like I'm playing, just trying to win games. And then when she said that, I was like, oh wow, that's like crazy. And then it eventually happened. And I'm not usually a super emotional person, but during the ceremony, I like just couldn't keep it together because you think about like how much goes into every practice, every game, going to class, like everything. Like there's so much physically that goes into it, but mentally and emotionally. And you're with, like, I'm with my sisters, like I'm with people that I have relationships that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. And so once that actually happened, it was like I was just so overwhelmed because one, I felt like I made the great decision of coming here, but then it culminated into seeing something that'll last forever. And so that was just it was just so special.
Yeah. You're giving me goosebumps, honestly. My jersey isn't retired. Do you remember how you got the news, or what, like, how did they reach out and tell you, we're going to do this?
I'm pretty sure Kevin White called me, our athletic director at the time, and it was either a call or email or both, and said, hey, like we have some really great news and we're going to retire your jersey. Like, and I was just like, what? You sure you're talking to me? Like, what? Yeah, it was, I think that's what it was. And I just was so taken aback and just so thankful, like, for everything that Duke means and everything that they've done.
Yeah. So are you going to convince Mark to stay 4 years and so he can get his jersey retired and we can have the Williams siblings in the rafters?
I would love to do that, but it's also going to be hard to convince him to stay for 4 years.
No, I know. Listen,
his opportunities are a little different than mine.
Yeah. No, I'm all about striking while the iron's hot. So
yeah, exactly. I can't be mad at him. I'm so proud of him. I always try to watch their games. I record them if it's too late, because most of the time it's too late. But
well, it's too late in the States a lot of times.
It's too late in the States. But like if they play on the West Coast or something, then it's like I can wake up and watch or something. But I try to watch as much as I can, and I always text him before games and just. I try not to give him too much, like Coach K is your coach. Like look at your staff. Like I don't need to sit here and be your coach. Like I'm literally just here to support. And as a player, like that's the voice that I try to give him every day. So I'm just so happy for him.
Yeah. How much did you help us on the recruiting front with Mark, or was that pretty simple for him?
I was really clear with him. I was like, look, like, my experience at Duke, you've been to Duke a million times. Like, I'm not going to push this on you. Like this is your decision. All of this is you. Like your process is going to look so different from mine. So like, I can give you advice and this and that, but I'm not going to try to push. But at the end of the day, he's like, I mean, it's Duke, So I was like, and I said, hey, I am not mad at you at all. So that's kind of how it went with recruiting.
Yeah. It's funny. It's like so often when you talk to guys about making a decision to come to Duke, they're like, Man, it's Duke. Like that ends up being like the last thing was, well, it's Duke. So I went to Duke.
Yeah.
So his freshman year, I mean, at the beginning, I don't want to say he struggled, but he just wasn't getting on the court as much. Did you guys have any conversations during that time? Because it seemed like, once he finally got the opportunity, he was ready to go. Kind of midway through his freshman year.
Yeah, I mean it's similar to what I tell him now. I'm just like don't overthink anything.
Mm-hmm.
Just play hard in practice. Get your confidence in practice. If you need to shoot extra, if you need to get in the weight room, do those things. Because I know even for me, like if I'm feeling like I'm in a slump or not where I'm supposed to be, if I'm in the gym extra, then I feel more confident in practice, and that kind of turns into the games. And so that was honestly my advice. I was like, you have amazing resources, you have amazing coaches, but you just have to push a little harder. Sometimes you think you're pushing yourself, and there's always another level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what people started to see the second half of the season was like, oh, okay, like this is how he can play. This is how he wants to play. So it was more just like trying to build confidence, and
Yeah.
I think that's always the toughest thing. Like we forget how young these guys are. Like
Yeah,
forget
that's
how
very
young you
true.
are in college. Like sometimes it just takes a little bit of time. So
yeah, and then especially at Duke, not only how young you are, but you're put on this platform in front of millions of people,
huge. Yes,
and
exactly.
you're still figuring it out. At 18, 19 years old. So, yeah, I wish people would understand that a little more often. Like these are still kids. What were you guys doing at 19? And
Yeah.
would you want that to
Yeah.
be put on television for millions of people to see? Probably
Man, and
not.
especially and now with social media, like
Yeah.
I feel like it was just becoming more popular with us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but now it's different. It's like
Yeah,
another
it's a
level
lot
of
different.
access and another level of just intense
Yeah.
intense people.
Yeah.
So
I got on Twitter like the end of my freshman year, and Twitter wasn't
yeah,
it was a
what it
lot,
is now.
different. Everything was it was completely different. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you couldn't even put a video on Twitter, I don't think. Like
No, I
you
don't
could
think so.
barely put a picture up. And now it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
completely different. Before we continue our conversation, let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at Bet Rivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with Bet Rivers yet, now's the time because they are offering a $250 match bonus for your first deposit. But what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay instant approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and more reliable. With basketball season in full swing, get in on the action by going to betrivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. So after you graduate, head into the WNBA, what were some of the adjustments you had to make from college to the W?
I mean, I think biggest adjustment is the physicality. Everybody's bigger
Mm-hmm.
in every position, from the
Mm-hmm.
guards to the posts. Everybody's bigger. Um, a different way of approaching games because you're playing so many more games. Like you have to get used to like if you lose a game, it's not the end of the world, and you're not just going to be running as punishment. It's like
Yeah.
no, we have to scout and prep and get ready for the next one because like this season is going to go so fast. And
Yeah.
so
I
I
feel like
think
that's a big one, especially coming from Duke,
yeah.
because like losing is the worst thing
Yeah.
on planet Earth at Duke. And then you become a pro and you lose, and they're like, "All right, well, we got a game tomorrow or a game in 2 days. Like, let's move on." And
Yeah.
you're like, "Wait, what?
And you're
We're
like
not all
in your
sad."
like like depressed in your locker, like oh my gosh, and the vets are like, all right, what's for dinner? Like
Yeah,
let's get some food and get out
yeah.
of here. Like what? So that's definitely a big adjustment for sure. um but yeah, just like the physicality of the game, the knowledge of the game, like the way you learn the game, I think is really different. And you see that in how coaches scout, because the talent level is so high that you have to be a little like you have to be more detailed in how you approach things. So there are a lot of adjustments. Like I struggled my rookie year until probably the end of my rookie year. I didn't really play a lot. It was hard to kind of find a flow. And then it wasn't until my next year where it wasn't until after I played it one season overseas
Mm-hmm.
and then played the next season in the W that I really felt like, okay, like I feel good now. I feel like I'm in the right place.
Yeah. What was it about that year two? That was the year you got most improved, right? Your second year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It was, my second year.
So what was it about year one to year two that you obviously felt a lot more comfortable and were able to really, show who you were as a player?
Mhm. It was a number of things. I had one season overseas under my belt,
Mm-hmm.
and overseas is just a chance to just kind of play because
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's
yeah,
kind of what they want you to do. They want you
yeah.
to come over and be that kind of like the role you had in college, like that bigger role. And I think coming back to that and finding that, and then bringing that confidence into my second year, and I also got traded to Atlanta that year from Connecticut. And so it was just like, this is the perfect year of like new opportunities, just a new
Mm-hmm.
chance, new city, new coach. A coach that was just really excited about having me. And so kind of all of those things put together, and I felt really comfortable and just played with a lot more confidence in that year
Yeah,
and had a really good year.
yeah. So you mentioned playing overseas, and you are in Istanbul right
Yep.
now, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so in Turkey now playing. Um, I don't even know, like, what is that like to play in the W? I assume you get a couple weeks off, and then you're right back playing um, overseas. Like, when do you guys rest? I just feel like you guys are always
The age
playing.
old question. When do we rest? We we really don't. I think I had a week. I think I had a week between seasons.
Oh, okay, so I
Um,
overestimated. It wasn't a couple weeks; it was a week.
it's usually people get usually between 5 and 10 days based on their
Oh my
contracts.
goodness!
Um, it's not ideal,
Yeah.
but I think especially for like the younger players, I really do think it's a good opportunity because
Hmm.
a lot of times in the pros, like the vets kind of take over, and like
Hmm.
rookies don't really get a huge chance. Like your opportunity is pretty slim, and so I think for a lot of younger players, they feel like they can work on things and get their confidence overseas, and then come back to the W stronger. The issue is just kind of rest, because like there are a couple of breaks, like for national team breaks and stuff like that are built in, but there really aren't that many.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when this season ends, kind of depends on the country that you're in when it
Hmm.
ends. But usually you're heading straight into training camp, or sometimes you miss training camp if your team is playing in playoffs. So there's really not a lot of rest time. I mean, the W is trying to incentivize people to not play overseas for
Yeah.
that reason. People get injured. Um, people are coming back to their W teams not healthy, and so that's why we're seeing a lot more of like the league marketing deals and team and players staying in their market, trying to do stuff with their teams, and gain money that way.
Yeah.
But there's also, because we play in the summer, it's a lot longer off season than other sports.
Right.
So to not play overseas at all is kind of a risk too, because it's like, am I really just only going to be training for however many months? And
Hmm.
it's different playing team basketball than doing skill work.
Absolutely, for
So
sure.
it's like you kind of have to find this balance even within yourself, and as you learn what's important to you over your career, of like, do I play overseas? Do I play a full season overseas? Do I take a cut to only play a
Hmm.
portion overseas, or do I like make a big chunk of money and miss some of my W season? So it's definitely a balancing act.
Yeah. What are some of the differences in the game um, between the W and playing overseas?
Um, well, for one, the rules are different because you're playing international rules. So like there's no defensive 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Which
The
is great for
referees
you.
are, yeah, it's great for me. I block way more shots out
Yeah.
here. And the bigger post players love it. They don't have to be. They could literally just stand in the paint the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
The referees here, like, in the NBA and the WNBA, like, you can't hand check. Like, you got to let these guards play. Overseas, like, they got their hands all over you.
Yeah.
That's why I think I feel like Luka Doncic said something like it's easier to score in the NBA or something, just because he has a lot more freedom of movement.
Yeah.
Rather in EuroLeague, they let you like kind of hound and beat each other up. So there are some adjustments there, and just like the style of play and I mean, now in the NBA and WNBA, more people are shooting, but generally speaking, like Europeans, everybody's shooting, 1 through 5, and you have to adjust your play that way. So yeah, it's just like a couple differences.
Yeah. So when you come back to the W, does it take a week or two before you like stop fouling people all the time, or are you all right?
I think the biggest thing, I I always appreciate the timeout. There's so many more media timeouts.
Oh yeah.
In the States, so I'm like, oh, I'll take this break. But yeah, sometimes I forget about defensive 3 when I come back. Just because like it's just not something you're actively thinking about a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see a lot of W players are kind of doing different things off the court, TV. I know Chennai does a lot of stuff with ESPN. I think I saw Chelsea was doing some stuff on TV.
Yeah, she's doing some broadcasting, I believe. Yeah.
Is there anything that interests you off the court to maybe bridge that gap between W seasons?
I mean, I've never really wanted to do broadcasting. Like, people always think like, oh, like you should get into it. That's not really been my thing. I try to stay pretty busy though. Like, I'm on our executive committee of our union, so that keeps me busy because we have to talk about social justice stuff. We talk about the COVID protocols. Like, I think that's going to be our next call, because we're seeing what's happening in the NBA and NFL, and like when we come back, like we don't want to repeat any of the issues that they've had.
Yeah.
So being involved with that kind of off the court stuff has actually kind of kept me pretty busy. And I think if I were to like play a half season overseas or something I've been really passionate about has been public health and medicine. And so talking about vaccines, talking about player health and safety, things like that. So I think that's kind of where I would bridge the gap a little.
Yeah. You mentioned COVID protocols, so I got to ask, what was the wobble like? You're our first wobble member who's come on, so I got to ask what that was like.
Yeah. Honestly, it was fine. Like, for what it had to be, like, it did its job. So you could either live in the hotel or you could live in like basically like apartments. And I chose to live in like an apartment place. So we had our own individual room, but we just shared like a living space. And I preferred that because we could make our own food if we didn't want to eat like the food that was provided.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit more homey than being in a hotel for however many months, which was nice. But it was pretty much just basketball all the time, because we played more games because they didn't want us in there forever. So we're playing almost every other day. Got tested every single day.
Yeah.
And at least
the nose one.
Deep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it wasn't the deep one.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, or else I think my nose would have been bleeding so much.
Man, I hated that thing, and I only did it like 2 or 3 times, and I was like, "This is the worst thing ever."
Yeah, those deep ones are different. But we tested every day. We had meals provided for us every day. If you, like I said, if you were in the lodges or apartments, you could cook when you wanted. But yeah, because we're playing almost every other day, it was like eat, sleep, breathe basketball pretty
Yeah.
much. So in your free time, your off days, like people go to the pool, chill out, because IMG's campus had kind of pretty much everything. Like if you wanted to go golfing on an off day, you could.
Did you pick
But
up golf?
We did have one day where we played some golf.
Okay.
I'm not very good,
Well,
but
none of us are.
I've taken some lessons though, so I can.
There you go.
I know like the basics, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think everybody tried to like make the most out of it. The hardest was just being away from my families,
Yeah.
Like we were just glad everyone was safe, I think the hardest part was leaving, because it's like, dang, now we have to go back to the real world where like we could get away with not wearing our mask just because we tested every day and you're around the same people, but then it was like, dang, we got to go back to the reality of this pandemic that's not any better than before we got in here.
Right. So excuse me. Are there any players that you like to watch on your off days? Like, who's playing tonight? I gotta watch them.
Like current players or like
yeah, current players.
I watch a lot of games. Like I watch EuroLeague men's games, watch EuroLeague women's games. Like Mike James has been killing it in EuroLeague.
Yeah, he's a monster over there.
He's so good.
He's a monster.
Yeah, I mean, I watch everything. I watch the NBA. I actually try to watch college ball, especially on the weekends, because those games are early, so I can watch them live. Yeah. So watching college players, like watching South Carolina, Leah Boston's been killing. Duke's players have been doing well too. The women, Lexi, Celeste, Shy, like, yeah. So I mean, anything I basketball. Watch everybody. Yeah. I watch it.
All basketball all the time. So speaking of our Duke women, what were your thoughts when you heard they were hiring Kara?
Oh, I thought it was so great.
Yeah.
I was really excited. I actually spoke to Kara like when I was younger, like when I was being recruited, because like I said, Tennessee was on my list. So I talked to her a little bit. And so when she had a call with like, I think like Duke women's basketball alumni, and she brought that phone call up, and I thought that was so cool. Like she's just the type of person that's just like truly down to earth, obviously knows the game of basketball so well, like played at every level, coached at every level. And so I feel like she was the perfect hire for Duke. Like she's what they need. The players liked her. When I went down to watch my brother play, I talked to some of the players, and they're like, yeah, she's great. Like they love playing for her, learning from her. They feel like they learn so much. So I think it's a great hire. I'm just excited for the future.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I learned stuff because, I follow the Duke women's basketball account on Twitter, and they're always posting, little videos of her talking in practice. And I'm like, oh man, that's good stuff. Like, I like that.
And that's funny. I was talking to Jazz Thomas, and she was saying like, even as a player, like that's really how Kara is. Like that's how she talks. Like that's her mentality and her mindset. So like that's not like that's real. Like that's really what's going on in her head, and she's sharing that. So I know they're soaking it all up. I think it's dope.
Yeah. You mentioned you get a chance to watch some of their games. What do you think this year? I mean, I think they've been pretty impressive. They seem to be ahead of where they should be, where you would think they would be at this moment, especially having last year pretty much not playing a season at all.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think they're like even ahead of where people would think they would be. And I think it's sometimes hard when they have like 9 transfers.
Yeah,
kind of took advantage of the COVID, the portal. So that's hard, playing with all new people, but they've done a really good job, and I think a lot of that is buying into what Kara's looking for and what that staff is looking for. So I'm just excited to see kind of how they end up, because even playing South Carolina is always a tough team to play, but like holding them, I think in the 50s, like that's tough, so those are good signs for what the future can be for sure.
Yeah, I think it was their lowest point total of the year. And the other thing that I thought that was impressive, and not that we take moral victories at Duke, but they were down, I think 16 or 17 at one point, and a lot of teams just kind of say, okay, well, that's that. But they kept fighting back and got it to single digits. So yeah, just so I think it's a lot of good signs for this team that we're seeing this year.
Definitely, absolutely.
All right, so got one last thing. Is how we end the podcast. And you're gonna have to do double duty. So normally with the guys, I ask for their men's starting 5 and 6 man, but we're gonna have to do the men's starting 5 and 6 man, and we're gonna have to do a women's starting 5 and 6 women. So all time Duke men and women starting 5 and 6 person.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah, putting you on the spot.
I put Chelsea Gray.
Okay, Chelsea's the point guard.
I'm gonna run out of 5 so fast because I gotta put Lindsay on this team. Lindsay Hardy. I put Georgia Beasley the 3.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, it's so hard. Oh man. I mean, so I gotta put Mo Curry on the team too.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say no Mo. Like, whoa.
I'm like, I gotta put Mo on the team for sure. Like, no doubt. I'm gonna put myself on the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my 6 man. I mean, AB. Lena Beard.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I was gonna like, oh wow, she's gonna keep AB off the team.
No.
Yeah, no, that's a good. So we got Chelsea, Lindsay,
Georgia Beasley,
Beasley, Mo, you, Elena off the bench. I like that team. I'll take that. I like that team. All right, men's side.
Men's side. Okay. Grant Hill.
Okay. Gotta have G Hill.
I'm put Woj on there.
Ooh, okay.
Christian Laettner, of course.
Yep, Laettner.
This is where it gets interesting. I could do. I'm thinking Elton Brand. Okay, I get 6 people though. Okay,
yeah, you get 6.
I'll do Elton Brand.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do. I gotta put Sheldon on there.
Okay.
Dang, this is hard. Dang, this is so hard. I feel like I'm missing someone significant though. I'm put Kyrie on there. Can I put Kyrie on there?
Yeah, it's your team.
I'm
all
like,
right.
He's on there for like. I'll put Kyrie on there.
Yeah. He wasn't there long, but the time he was there, he did some stuff. All right, so we got Kai, Woj, Grant, Laettner, Brand.
It's Elton Brand
and Sheldon. Okay.
Yeah.
There's not going to be a lot of scoring against that team, that's for sure.
I was going to say, it's definitely a defensive team.
Yeah, they're going to be locking down. They're going to be locking down. I'll probably play.
Put JJ instead of Woj.
Ooh, okay. So now we go Kai, JJ, Grant.
Yeah, we need some scoring.
All right. Kai, JJ, Grant, Laettner, Brand. That's a good thing. That pick and roll is going to be tough.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough. I
That was
like
a good
those.
one.
Yeah,
I
I
like
like
that.
those two
I'm happy
squads.
with my picks. I'm
Yeah,
happy with
yeah.
my
No, I like that squad. I like that squad. I can get down with that. All right. Well, that's all I have. I appreciate the time. Good luck with the rest of the season. Stay safe, win some games, block some shots. And yeah, be excited to see you in another season in the W this summer.
Thank you.